What a dump, guys. I can't believe you talked me into doing this again.
It is not a dump, it has character.
We promise to slide you some credits for your time.
Master, allow me to get that going for you.
Imperial credits, right? None of those Republic Dactaris.
Of course.
All right.
There's an open booth there.
Activating HoloNet. Connection established. Beginning broadcast.
And here we go. It's episode 6 of the Cantina Band. I am Adam Pulowski, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Brushwood.
Oh,
hey, Brian,
my
how you doing?
gosh. I feel like I'm a bad boy. I feel like I'm in detention because I haven't been going to my lectures.
What do you mean you haven't been going?
I haven't been playing the game very much. I've only. We'll talk about this more later. But hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, for those who don't know, Brian just launched a new show with Veronica. If you listen to, obviously, if you heard the last episode, they launched Game On, and he's a crazy man. I don't know how you're going to keep this schedule up, traveling
flying out to the Bay Area every single week. As a matter of fact, we're doing some final touches on some of the videos right now tonight, and then tomorrow I hop on a plane.
Wow. But we're not alone. We're never alone. We always bring some sort of mystery guest along for this this journey. And I hear we got a returning guest this week.
Look, here's the thing. I feel so bad for me being out of the loop that I was like, I want somebody who knows his stuff, who's going to be insightful and brilliant and amazing. And none of them were available. So I called Josh Augustine from PC Gamer Magazine.
Hey, Josh, how you doing?
It's good to know I'm your close runner-up. That's good. Yeah.
No, for the record, you were this time around the very first person he threw out as, let's get Josh on the show again. And I went, that's a great idea.
No.
All
Josh
right.
is a slam dunk.
So thank you,
I'll be
Josh.
that
How you
smart
doing,
kid in
man?
class that you can cheat off of, Brian.
Yeah.
There you
I'm very honored. By the way, can I comment real quick? If anybody's not listening to the PC Gamer podcast, you guys really, really need to. I listened to episode 300, and I was so thrilled and honored that it bore a striking resemblance to the episode of NSFW that we had you guys on for.
Oh,
yes,
nice.
It did. There was inspiration taken.
It was awesome. It's highly recommended. Lots of violent wanding.
So
awesome.
there
Well,
you
let's
go.
dive in, man.
Yeah, all right. So tell you what, before we get to the news, we got some news to talk about and whatnot, but I'm more interested right now in where you're all at in the game, what you're doing, and what's been going on.
All right, let me get this over with. I want it done
Okay.
and done. I've been very, very busy. I've only leveled one level this entire week. The good news is when last we spoke, I was bemoaning how crappy Nar Shaddaa was.
Yes.
And you pointed out that was my own dang fault because I went there and I wasn't supposed to. And I said the game sure didn't make that clear to me. But anyway, I went to Balmora and all of a sudden I was happy again. I was plowing through quests, had a really good time. Really, really fun. To be honest, I think the first time I've ever randomly grouped with another person. I am shocked at how much of the game really can be played completely single player, just having your own Mass Effect kind of experience. And that's the way I've been playing it mostly so far. But, again, it's fine. Now that I'm on the appropriate level, I'm about to head back to Nar Shaddaa. I'm excited about it.
Good. I was really worried about that because it was like, no, I mean, I know you don't want to back up the train and get over there. So good. I'm glad that you're finding the content's more enjoyable and you're able to actually get through it.
All the outdoor scapes are much more interesting. Nar Shaddaa, I thought I would love it, but it's just everything's so far apart. I think it's because I'm at that middle area right before I get a vehicle, and everything just seems to be so far.
Yeah, no, Nar Shaddaa, and I find this on the Republic side, Coruscant's like that, because it's so industrial, it's such a big city that everything's quadranted off and it's all very steel looking.
Well, and there's no way to sneak around anything. I remember, and now granted, my first experience in Nar Shaddaa, I was under-leveled, so it was like if I wanted to get from point A to point B, in a lot of the outdoor scapes, you're able to kind of give everything a wide berth, but again, with all those tunnels, it's just like you had to just plow through it like a train.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll pile up guys right there outside a doorway, and you have to go through them in order to get to where you need to go. So good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, I figured you wouldn't have gotten a lot of time in with your schedule the way it is. But how about you, Josh? For those who don't know, Josh wrote PC Gamer's review on Star Wars The Old Republic, and I know I saw via Twitter everybody was pointing folks to that review. So obviously you have had a lot of time in with the game. Where are you at? What are you doing? What are you having fun with? Just in general, where are you at with it?
Yeah, well, I'm a little ashamed to say I haven't hit max level yet.
Okay.
Just about everybody else that I've been playing with in the office has. I got an operative, which is an Imperial agent. He's kind of the melee DPS healer hybrid. That was my first character. I played him up to level 36. And to be honest, up until that point, I'd been playing with another guy in our office. We were like duoing up for the whole review, playing together. He was a Sith Inquisitor, I was an operative, dominating, going through. But the trouble was, because we were always playing together, we were way under level for the content we were at.
Yeah.
So we got to Hoth, which is like level, maybe you can help me out here, Adam. I think it's
wanna
like
say
38,
it's early
39.
40s, right? Or late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
late
I
30s, late 30s.
Yeah, late 30s. I got there when I was 34. And
Okay.
so when I came back from Christmas break, after my character was 36, I got back, I started trying to solo these quests, and I just couldn't do it. I was too low level. It was one of those things like, okay, I could do it if I let my companion die every single time, then resurrect and do it over. But man, after trying that for like a week, and I found that I just wasn't logging into the game anymore because I wasn't having fun trying to do these quests.
That is in every way my Nar Shaddaa experience, and it wasn't. And I'm so glad I went back to Balmora to finish the rest of that up. Now, so have you done everything that there is to do in the previous ones, or?
Yeah, I did all of them. We did all the quests. I didn't do all of the flashpoints. That's the only thing. But my solution was a little more drastic than yours, Brian. I killed my agent right then and there, and I rolled a new one.
What? Wait, when you say killed, like you just didn't bother, like you're not picking him up, or you physically deleted him?
No, I left him there. So just in case I changed my mind, I'm not that crazy.
I was about to say, that is pretty nuts.
Yeah, that would be insane. No, I just made a new agent. I went sniper, which is the other specialty class.
That's what I did on Flatus as well. She's a sniper.
Yeah, sniping is so fun, especially in PvP, man. You find one little spot where you can hide behind a box and just start picking away at guys, and they don't even see you.
What I love is setting up this kind of cascading crap storm to lay upon people, where it's just like you're either gonna kill them in the first 10 seconds or you're totally screwed.
Mm-hmm. That's what I love, and that's what I loved about. I usually play rogue characters in these sorts of games. That's what I love about rogue characters. Like, fights are over in 10 seconds either way. Like, you aren't gonna have long drawn out fights. It's just get in there, kill face. Oh, you didn't kill face, you got stomped. Okay, no big deal. Gotta move on. Either way, it's not a long drawn out process, which I like.
Well, I don't know. It's like, and I guess maybe I should roll another character that is more of a long drawn out kind of tanker, because I think there's a certain appeal to being in the middle of an epic fight and watching when it gets down to the very last, slug for slug in the last few percentage points of health left and not being sure if you're going to make it or not.
Yeah, and see, I really want to roll a tank, but to me, the responsibility of a tank is just way too high. Whereas, like, a sniper, people are already going to expect that I'm kind of a noob that's just worried about killing stuff. Like, no one's really going to have high expectations for me. But a tank, like, I'll roll a tank once I know all the bosses, once I know how all the fights work, so I can go in there, and lead the group well and be the hero.
Oh, that's a good point. I like this. I like this strategy. I'm going to steal the Josh Augustine scenario.
I should market this. I should
here's a
write
question.
some sort of book and
To
sell
bring
it.
it back to you being over level or under level for Hoth, did you skip all of like the side stuff, the heroics? Did you do any of those? Did you skip those and just stick to the main
I did
world
all
arcs?
of them, but I did all of it with Gavin, which is the person I was playing
See,
with.
that doesn't seem like I mean that seems like a pretty big mistake that just by virtue of playing the entire game in a group, which of course they encourage and they want people to do, that the XP split would end up hosing you and you wouldn't.
Well, that's just it. It doesn't. Brian's mentioned this a couple times, and I'm like, I walk away going, oh, you know what? He thinks there is some XP nerfing. Like, for example, if you go do a flashpoint, right? The very first time you go do a flashpoint, the game gives you an insane amount of XP for completing the mission the first time. The XP within the flashpoint for killing the individual mobs is just okay. The real chunk of XP comes from turning the mission in.
Right. But like here's my point: is Josh is saying he did every single quest there was to do.
See, he should have been over level when he went to Hoth.
I agree, but apparently he wasn't.
But you see, that's just it. There are only benefits to grouping with other people. There aren't detriments to group. In other words, like the 4-man heroics, you fill 4 people in there, or a flashpoint, you throw 4 people in there, you go in, you'll see a lot less trash loot, the white normal loot.
Yeah, sure.
You'll start seeing more greens.
By the way, as a follow-up, I know you were on me talking about how I needed to do more heroics for the better loot, and man, you are right. It is like night and day.
So
yeah.
when you're in a full group, your general quote unquote trash loot is going to be more greens, and you'll see more blues more often. So when you get to the boss, you have a better chance of getting a blue or a purple or an artifact, something much more spectacular. I've noticed when I've gone in two-manned or soloed Essalus after the fact, because I was looking for a particular chess piece or something, I've noticed that I see a lot more trash, a lot more. So the XP gets better, there are bonuses, the loot gets better.
But then what
it's when there's a huge level discrepancy, like you had noticed when we brought that level 18 with us.
Oh yeah, no.
Essalus.
Yeah, I am aware of that, but it sounds to me like you guys are the same level, right, Josh?
Yeah, we're maybe 1 or 2 levels apart, but pretty identical.
This is a mystery,
Adam. I think what it has to be the XP from characters. I know you get most of it from quests, but you do get a fair amount over the course of 36 levels. However many people you killed, you've killed thousands of people.
Well, not only that, I don't know. See everyone around me in our on Diamond Club on the Republic side has been having the opposite issue, and it's not really an issue. I'll explain why. They're like, oh, I'm already 4 levels over Terrace because I did Flashpoint a few times. I did space missions a bunch. I did some PvP, and it seems like it's a bad thing you're over level while you're midway through the game. When you get to the end of the game, being a couple levels over is actually a huge advantage.
Oh
it
no!
really
Look, I've already experienced the underleveled way, and no, thank you. I mean, it sucks.
Painful.
It sucks to be
painful.
underleveled.
So I'm confused. Like by the time I got to Hoth, by the time I hit Hoth, I was almost 5 levels over the suggested quests, and I had to stop doing the bonus missions.
Well,
because when you hit level 6, 6 levels above the content,
yeah, then you're just hosed.
You're not getting anything. You're not getting any XP or anything.
Yeah.
So I had to tame myself back and just do the primary objectives.
Well, let's
to make
I'll
sure
tell you what,
I didn't level out of everything.
Why don't we kick it out to the listeners? If you guys have a theory as to why Josh Augustine was underleveled, because that is a genuine.
That's weird. Yeah, that's a big mystery.
Follow the clues, Gumshoes, and hit us up at what's our number again, Adam?
1-330-822-8255. You can leave us a voicemail. We're not going to pick up the phone and answer, so don't be afraid. You just call, leave a voicemail, and we'll play it off on the show for you. So let us know, what the heck did Josh do wrong? There's something not right there. He must have missed something.
I know, and the obvious answer of Josh is an idiot will not fly.
That
is not acceptable.
No, we're not calling you an
especially
idiot.
Especially since you're clearly experienced with the game. I mean, how many levels did you play just in the beta period for your review going into?
I think I got 3 different characters up to level 16 or so.
Yeah, no, see, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So I want to answer the question, what have I been doing? So for those who are listening to the show last time, I had just dinged 48. Since then, I hit 50. And
how long does it take after you hit 48 to get those 2 levels? Does it really slow down as you get closer and closer to 50?
No, that was something I really noticed because, now you're obviously watching the XP bar. Like, oh, I'm going to ding. I'm almost there. I know in other MMOs, by the time you hit the end of the leveling progression, they're asking for millions of XP, huge chunks. This didn't even break at 50, going from 49 to 50. It was 485,000. It wasn't even half a mil.
So do you feel taller once you hit 50? Sort of looking around at the underlings?
You do. You feel cooler.
Start using /spit on anyone not 50.
Exactly.
Wait, is that a real emote? Can you do that?
I don't know. You could in other MMOs. I haven't actually tried into Tor. I'm not high enough level. I'm just being spit on. I'm not actually.
Yes. By the way, I ran into parts of Hoth are cross faction. There are several major sort of dungeons, areas, whatever they are, where you are sharing them with the Sith. So obviously on a PvP server, that gets colorful very quickly. Normally when I run into Sith, they're usually they wave, whatever, they say hello or they just ignore you. There's a lot. Folks are very friendly on the server in general. So I haven't had any I'm an Imperial and you're a Rebel and I'm just going to give you or Republic, I'm going to give you a hard time. I haven't had a lot of that, but
now what about
I did get spit on by a Sith in this dungeon when I was quasi AFK. before I was continuing to finish what I was doing there. So yeah, it's there. Trust me.
So Josh, what's it like over on the PvP servers? Does it get nasty in the cross
Oh
faction
my
era?
gosh, it is bad. And I can't say for all PvP servers because we got a guild called Ruin, which their stated objective is to ruin the game for everyone else.
Oh no, you got a Griefer clan.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and they're large enough to have 3 guilds. There's Ruin, Ruin Gaming, and Ruinous.
Oh my
and they're all
God.
filled to the max. So that's potentially like 1,500 players on the
Yeah.
Republic side just aiming out to gank us.
Wow.
So how's
Well,
that? How's that going for you?
Yeah,
It's
how's
brutal.
that going?
They basically pick one zone a night and just like, all right, we're gonna own, like, they'll pick one of the cities on Balmora and just like, yeah, we're gonna hang here and no one's gonna be able to quest. And they just stand around and they kill you, and there's nothing you can do.
Oh my
and
God.
before they made the changes to Ilum, that was brutal. Because
we'll
in
talk
Ilum,
about that a
to
little
get
later,
off
yeah.
the planet, you have to go to like a shuttle that's kind of in this back area. And initially, there were turrets and guards there, but they wouldn't actually attack. And so they started camping people at the shuttle. And you have to channel on the shuttle to get out.
Yep.
So you couldn't leave the planet. They
Oh
just
my
kept
God.
killing you over and
Now,
over and over.
I would
again.
like
It was-
I would like to set the Wayback Machine back to our discussion. Last time we had you on,
Yeah,
we were bummed
yeah.
to find out that you were going straight PvP and we were doing PvE.
You were banging your chest and you were like, yeah, PvP.
All right,
How's that working out?
I regret nothing. This is fantastic because it's a horrible experience, but it's a horrible experience that's entertaining and something that is exciting. It's a fun story to tell. It's horrible at the time, but it's a good story to tell.
I'll tell you
and
what,
it made
I
my
actually-
experience more well-rounded.
I actually 100% understand where you're coming from because I mean all the way back when I was in college and we played the original Ultima Online, and of course that's before there was any way.
yeah.
I mean it was corpse looting, it was murder, and it was like for all the times I remember getting killed and having all my stuff taken, I remember those few times I was in the right place at the right time. It just took a bunch of stuff that I had no business owning. It was it's a fascinating social experience, and if
It
you've
is.
never done it, you should try PvP at least once.
Yeah,
So,
and I feel like a little like my dad, like saying like, "Oh, well, it builds character." It sort of does. Yeah, it's a terrible
Suck it
experience,
up,
but
Buttercup.
it's good for me.
It
Yeah.
doesn't kill you; it makes you stronger. So,
All right, let's talk
So-
about the Ilum thing, man. Let's get
no,
into
no,
the
no.
news.
Hang on, I want to talk about hitting 50 and what I've been doing since I got there. So I hit 50 and was like, all right, So for those who don't know, your class story wraps up on whatever the last planet is. I believe for Republic it is Corellia. I wrapped that up, and I have to say, I just want to throw this out here for those who are curious. The Jedi Counselor story, the way it all came together in the end, gave me goosebumps. And my jaw was on the floor when, I don't want to spoil anything. There are some major moments that happen for your character after you're wrapping everything up that I was like, no kidding.
I don't want to spoil everything, but when you pull off the mask and it turns out you're an Ewok, that was a big moment.
That was a big moment. So I just want to say kudos BioWare. Act 1 was very self-contained for the Jedi Counselor. It was very much sort of a singular villain you were going after to solve this mystery of what was going on with these other Jedi Masters, etc. So you finish Act 1, and then Act 2, they kind of send you off on more of now you're going to go do your diplomacy with lightsaber thing. And so for Act 2, you're kind of helping in the political arena, straighten some things out. And then Act 3 is when everyone's class stories start to converge. It all becomes sort of one big tale. And into Act 1 and Act 2, it really felt disjointed. And then when I got into 3 and when I finally started approaching the finale, I went, I get it. So there's a big payoff to it. Not everyone's cup of tea, but I really enjoyed it. So I got to 50 and I was like, all right, I get to unlock, there are missions that you can do daily that give you really good money and give you, modifications for your gear that are like level 50 or level 51. So I unlocked all that. So just so you know, your class story ends at 50, but the world story doesn't end at 50. You got to go back to Belsavis, and you got to go back to, or you go to Illum, do that, and that tells sort of the end of the world story.
Got it.
So got there, and there were a couple of my other adventuring buddies were like, yay, we're all 50. Let's go do some endgame stuff. Where the F are all the tanks? Shoot. We've got nothing but healers and DPS around us.
Oh, wow.
Tanks are like just across the board on our server. at least on the Republic side, tanks are a scarcity.
Now, is that something that you can actually look at the metrics? Do they display that for the server,
well,
like what the spread is? It seems like that's the kind of thing you should know, because if you just come into a server, you're like, I'm going to make a character, you should be able to know, like, oh, wow, these guys are pretty scarce. I ought to jump in.
Well, what happens in a lot of the bigger guilds, I know a lot of time, especially these very endgame focused guilds, they'll tell people, like, people will be like, okay, what does the guild need? What, are we short on tanks? Are we short on healers? Hey, I'll go roll that. And when folks would ask that in the early days of the game, and I still firmly believe this, play what you want to play. That's what the guild wants. We want you to have fun. We'll sort it out. It'll all sort out at the end. And it will. We've got tanks that are coming. They're just slow. They're just not as power players as some of the folks that ended up being DPS and healers. So I'm now like, I'm ready to go do like Eternity Vault, and I want to go do hard mode, heroics, and we're easily weeks and weeks away from really having enough players at 50 ready to go.
Are you turning this to some kind of freaking telethon? Are you saying, so please consider Diamond Club?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So what I decided to do was, me and our other like major healer in the guild was like, well, heck with this. See, had I known there was going to be a glut of healers, I would have rolled a tank, and this blows me away because Star Wars, the common fantasy is Jedi. Everybody wants to be a Jedi.
No, look, we've already talked about this. Yeah, it's the thing that I think most people are excited about is the stories that you don't get in the movies already, because I've already seen the Jedi story. I want to experience the other stories. I want the Han Solo experience.
That's totally me. I have no interest in a Force using class. It's like, I've played so many games like that. I've seen so many movies. That's why I picked the agent. It's like, I'll probably pick the bounty hunter next. I really want to play Trooper. It's like, these are the stories that are so different.
Yeah, well, and I guess also, I loved the Star Wars expanded universe, and it was very rare to get a lot of stories about Jedis, or at least in the books I read. I read all the Tales of the Cantina, Tales of the Bounty Hunters and stuff.
Smugglers, and
exactly.
No, I get that.
And so, but now tell me this, Josh. Obviously, you're playing a lot of stuff on the Sith side. Do you play light side or dark side in those characters?
I'm a softie. I am all light side, and
Same
I get
here.
no end of grief from my guild.
No. I'm with you. I'm all light side across the board. And to me, I'm all about the conflict. And you have to think about what kind of situation you're in. And so it's like, you're like, okay, I'm an Imperial agent, but I'm light side. So what does that mean? That means I'm somebody who believes in the rule of law, who believes in order, who's a patriot, but who's also a good person, who, even though a lot of people take shortcuts in this bureaucracy and do the easy thing and kill people, she won't be one of those. And it's like you construct this narrative in your mind for what kind of person has this experience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'll tell this short story. I talked a little bit about it in my review. But I was playing this character. I was trying to be good, and it's really hard to be light side in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
It is.
Because it's just like, and you find out like, this is not really spoilers, but people you thought you could trust, maybe you can't trust as much, and it's just like, oh dude, I have no idea who's good. And I got sick of going to these planets, and the first thing I get told to do, okay, go out there and murder all the natives.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second. And so I went to Alderaan, and the first thing you get told, go out and murder all these natives. It's like, well, no, I'm not going to do it this time. I refused the quest, which is like the first time I've ever done that in an MMO. Like, no, I'm not going to do this quest because it doesn't work for my character.
You, like knowing full well, you're like, well, that's XP I won't be having.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's probably why I'm not high enough level. I turned down that quest.
I didn't want to. I was pulling my Columbo here. One more thing.
Yeah.
When you refused that quest, did you get any XP?
Yeah, and so I decided, this planet is where I'm making my stand. I'm not going down that route. I'm going to be the good guy, all this sort of stuff. Then as the story unfolds, you're put in this situation where, oh man, the natives are telling me to do, this terrible stuff too. And it's like, but I've been championing them, and now they want me to be the bad guy for them, and it's just like, it hit this moment where it's just like, oh my gosh, this is like the most complex story. I realized it would take me like 20 minutes to explain it to anybody else, like what was going on. But I sat there for half an hour looking at this decision wheel, like, okay, who am I going to side with? Because both
I've
sides
had a
wanted
couple
me
moments
to pick.
like that. Yeah,
I'll tell you, man. BioWare, they got a knack for finding that one little piece of your brain where indecision lies, and then just sticking a barb right in it.
It felt like they were jabbing you every step of the way. Like early on, it's pretty black and white. It's like, there are terrorists trying to kill everybody. Do you want to stop them? You're like, okay, yes, of course. And then they're like, all right, but these terrorists may have, a semi-decent cause. Well, that doesn't excuse killing people. Okay. It's like, oh, but they aren't actually killing people. They're just faking it. Like, oh,
You're like, oh,
okay, then that's
crap.
different. Then they're like, but what if these people, are actually, they're doing it because the Empire murdered their parents. And it's like, oh, dang, this is getting harder. And then it just gets harder and harder. I think BioWare's goal was to keep pushing you until you would break.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't be all evil, you can't be all good, but how far are you going to let it go before you change?
Now, I don't know how many of the themes exist in different character classes, but I know that it felt in the early teens, it was feeling increasingly hard to play a light-sided Sith. But somewhere around, I want to say like 14 or 15, when I came upon the cult of the Revenites, it was like this breath of fresh air. And you could tell that they write the Revenites to not really matter if they're good or evil, or they don't really care. But the idea of this kind of punk rock faction within the Sith Empire who is loyal to the Sith, but more loyal to essentially the character you played in Knights of the Old Republic, I loved it. And I'm so excited to see those quests develop as I continue to progress.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
really cool.
interesting.
I love that. Especially because you're basically worshiping yourself. If you're
Yes,
doing that
yes,
cult.
exactly. You project onto them however it was you played Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. Because I've tried bouncing back and forth between the Republic, and I figured, oh well, now that I've hit cap, I'll go spend some more time on the Sith side, and it's just not gelling for me. No matter what class I try, I've tried.
You're a
I have
softie
an
though.
agent.
You're a good guy.
Well, I am. I guess that's really what it is. So I gave up on that when with the realization, like I was saying earlier, that we were out of tanks. I went, all right, I'm going to go level a tank. And after kind of playing with the trooper for a bit and playing with the Jedi Knight, I was like, yeah, it's time to do the Jedi Knight thing. So I will say I've already like level 22, 23.
Wow.
My plan
Lapping.
is to have
I've
both the
literally been
healer-
lapped. You've gone all the way to 30, started again at 0, and now you're ahead of me.
Yeah. So this way, and my other healer's doing the same. This way, we will always have a healer and a tank on call, and I will never have to stand around waiting for somebody to be like, all right, I'll be out of this thing in a half. You know what I mean?
No, look, yeah, you're not going to regret it, though. I mean, as
No,
long
no,
as it's
no,
still fun
absolutely
for
not.
you to do
But
that, right?
But what I am impressed by, right, is I am playing two Force-using lightsaber wielding classes light years apart in play style.
Really?
Completely different. And really enjoying that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of waiting for everybody to catch up so we can start doing some of the fun stuff at
This
the
is
end
the
of the
most
game.
passive-aggressive finger wagging I've ever received.
No, not at all. Brian will one day, a year from now, he'll be at 50 and we'll get to do some stuff together. But, so, but I'm having fun. I'm having a blast. And the only other thing that's left for a high-end character to do, really, is the dailies on Illum. And I guess that'll bring us to our first news story. So,
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, like I mentioned earlier, the end of the story plays out on Illum, and Illum is split into two halves. It has a complete half of it is dedicated to the player versus environment quest lines, never have to deal with PvP, and the other half of Illum is set up as open world PvP. So there's a whole battle, war going on this planet, et cetera, et cetera. There are two quest hubs that you can hit on a daily basis. Take 6 or 7 missions that will give you these tokens you can then use to buy gear, and the gear you need for like the end game stuff. I gotta say, I'm getting kind of bored doing these dailies already.
Does the dailies feel like standing in the bread lines for your rations or something?
A little bit. It's not that they're boring. I mean, they're great. They're fun. Go here, kill the Imperials, collect this, do that. But after doing it for a week, like really, these are like. So basically, there's like 3-4 quest hubs between 2 planets with maybe a dozen quests that you can do. And I figured there'd be more variety there. And obviously, that'll come down the road. What I expect they'll have is there'll be 50 or 60 daily missions, and you can take 10 today.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that, of course, on our upcoming story, talking about the video that they released of all the plans for what is to come. It sounds like you have a lot of faith in the BioWare team, but just you are an outlier, I would say, right now for the level you're at for how soon the games come out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you're into PvP, there's definitely a lot more to do as far. I'm not saying there isn't stuff to do, but right now I'm in this in-between phase where, waiting for a few more folks to catch up, and there's just not enough folks at the top end yet just randomly pick up, hey, we need a tank, let's go do this.
So tell me about the Ilum.
Yeah,
the
so
Ilum story.
BioWare done broke PvP on Ilum, or did the players break it? All right, so what happened? So Josh, I was hoping Josh had seen more of the endgame PvP at this point, but it sounds like he hasn't gotten there
You've
yet.
disappointed
I
Adam,
know.
Josh.
You've
I know. Well, it's good to
disappointed
know
me.
you're not the only one disappointing him today, Brian.
That's okay.
That's good.
That's okay. No one's disappointing me, trust me. I want folks to play the game and enjoy it. It's not a race.
Give me the story. What's the story?
All right. So apparently in the open world half of Ilum, up until, this week we got a big update, add a new flashpoint. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They made some changes to the open world PvP. In very simple terms, the way I understand it was not only did you get Valor, which is sort of the leveling XP that you gain for PvP, it's like a whole separate system from your normal XP. You would gain Valor for killing players, but you really got your Valor and your Valor bonuses from completing 5 specific objectives in the PvP area. Destroy this turret, destroy that transport, and whichever side did that controlled the area which applied a buff. Apparently with this new patch, they changed it so destroying the turrets, doing all these things will still apply this buff that helps increase your Valor and how much you're earning, but it doesn't actually grant Valor. You actually have to kill the players now. So apparently the patch was slightly bugged, or something went wrong where opposite faction players were able to get into other guys' bases and effectively camp the cloning study. So here, let me hang on. Let me scroll down here. There was a really so this has been back and forth all week. Couple things. So what happened was everybody and their cousin who's into PvP just mass rushed Ilum and proceeded to take part in the exploiting.
Wow.
So people couldn't get out of there. They couldn't take the shuttle out. It really ugly. I was seeing all over Twitter people posting videos of the slideshows, and it's so funny. So here was the explanation from Jeff Hickman of the Live Services. As many of you know, large groups of players began capturing the Ilum control points, then camping at the enemy's bases. This led to a very frustrating experience for a number of players who were unable to leave their base and fight back against their attackers. It was not a fair gameplay experience. In addition, some players on the attacking side gained more Valor points than designed for the time they spent in PvP. The amount of Valor granted from these activities was significantly more than intended, and we are now carefully investigating players who were on Ilum during these periods and present at some of these quote-unquote camping events.
This is amazing. This is a space crime that was perpetrated in a virtual world.
And that's
we live
exactly
in the future.
how I felt about it, and that's what a lot of the more legit, like a lot of folks in Diamond Club, we have a segment of players who are really hardcore PvPers, and they spend their time in war zones. They spend their time playing legitimately on Ilum, and they're like, and I saw this that day too. I saw suddenly full blown, like you'd see someone wearing like a champion headpiece or a champion gloves or maybe the chest piece, but they weren't matching it. Folks are still working on that. I'm seeing people run around in full like champion and battle master gear from head to toe, like on this first day. And I was like, that's not right. So he goes on to just say, I can assure you that those who were involved and who gained an unfair advantage over other players inappropriately will be carefully reviewed and action will be taken to restore game balance. This could include Valor adjustments or account actions in accordance with the severity of the issue. They've said that they're not...
I don't know which is cooler, the fact that there's an actual space crime in a virtual world or that somebody has announced that he's going to restore balance to the Force.
Yeah, I know. Huh? Well, this is important stuff. Like, Josh, you're a long-term MMO fan. This is the kind of stuff that can permanently alter PvP faction balance and whatnot, and can really be a game breaker for a lot of folks if they suddenly realize that, I played legitimately and only got this far. These guys in one day got to here. I can't compete with that. Forget it. I mean, this is...
And PvP at this early level, it snowballs out of control so fast. Like, if that person is so much more powerful, it's going to be that much more harder for you to start getting gear because he's constantly killing you.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, so what's the? I guess right now all we have from BioWare is a statement. They're like, "Whoa, bro, this is messed up. But don't worry, we're on the case."
The next day they patched it so that because the intended design was those turrets outside of your base if you're opposite, are meant to one shot, two shot kill you.
Yeah,
you
sure.
are not meant to get into the base.
Sure.
So they patched that, fixed it. Also, then the player base, and I'm seeing this in full force on Keller's Void, is the Imperials and the Republic are all group, all the Republic players are like, hey, join our raid, and then they're working together to kill each other. They literally meet up in the middle of the battlefield.
Oh, and just take turns slaughtering themselves?
Okay, our turn to kill you guys. Okay, here we go. Everybody let it go. And then everybody AoEs the hell out of the raid. And then they come back, and then it's your turn to
Now,
die.
is this a case? Now, number one, is there any kind of precedent for this? And number two, is this a case where death? Because I'll tell you, I kind of like the fact that death doesn't have a lot of teeth in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Because
Let me tell you something, it does when you're at 50. It gets really expensive to repair your gear.
Oh, your gear gets messed up, of course.
Oh, believe me, dude. Running dailies, I've had 36K repair bills just from dying 3 or 4 times.
Well, so what's the precedent for this before that you were saying?
Well, for me, the first place I ever saw this was they called it Jedi Fight Club. So taking it back to Star Wars Galaxies.
Wait. The first rule of this club is you're not supposed to talk about it, Adam. Are you breaking some rules here?
Well, absolutely, because these jerks broke the game. So way back in Star Wars Galaxies in the original Jedi system, when you unlocked your Jedi, it opened up a whole new arena of like PvP, ranking, a leaderboard, whole 9 yards. So on the Sith side, the only way to progress to like Sith Master or Lord or whatever their ranks were, you had to kill other players. Same thing with Jedis. And so there was these arranged, okay, you're in the club, now we're going to let you kill this guy and you can move up this week. And there was a lot of working together to help bolster the ranks. And eventually it got to the point where Sony Online Entertainment had to step in and be like, this is not what this was designed for. And, you've really screwed up the whole
here's
server.
the real question, though, because you see that and that kind of behavior drives you nuts because that's obviously not what you want the game to be. But as game designers, it's their job to realize that people will do anything to get their characters accelerated as fast as possible. And you've got to design the game in such a way where there's not a benefit. You got to pre-plan for that. So it's sort of like in a movie, if I'm distracted thinking about stupid crap, I blame the director, because if the director had told the story better, then I wouldn't be guilty of having my mind wander. Likewise, I can't really fault any of the people for making, this Jedi Fight Club if the game designers had added more play balance.
I totally agree with you. And you talk with these developers, and they all know players are going to exploit stuff. If you give them ways to do it, it's just human nature. It's what people are going to do. If you let them do it, they're going to do it.
Right. And then what happens is you've got the ballsy ones who will they figure it out, or they're right on top of this exploit with Ilum. By the end of the day, I had to kind of throw out in guild chat to my PvPers, just a heads up, they're very likely going to take action against accounts or ban people for being involved with that. So stay away. Don't play the game. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to be worth it if you get your account taken away.
See, I almost hesitate to use the word exploit, because if you're working within the rules, it's like, hey bro, I didn't write the rules. You just told me to get there.
When half the server shows up to camp the med droid on the Republic side, preventing people from being able to leave the zone or just respawn.
I mean, okay,
that's obviously not the intended design. Obviously, something wasn't working.
I don't know. I mean, I gotta disagree, because I find stuff like this to be a fascinating social experiment. For example, I mean, again, back in the Wild Wild West of Ultima Online, some of the most epic stories I heard were like when a friend of mine told me this story of how he went to the docks and just started shouting, boat for sale, boat for sale. And then the guy was like, holy crap, you got a boat? He's like, well, yeah, you got 5,000 gold. And then nobody, as far as, he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, give me 5,000 gold. I'll give you the deed and the instructions to run the boat. And so the guy gives him 5,000 gold, and he hands him, and he trades it for one book called Deed for the Boat or whatever. And then the other book is instructions to pilot the boat.
I know where this is going.
And then
I know where this is going.
The instructions are just long enough to where when he gets to the last page, it says, by the way, I think it's for 5,000 gold. You can't buy boats in this game, dumbass.
Yep. I've seen stuff like that.
There's something beautiful about that.
I totally
but-
agree. In this particular case, it's not exploit. I would say if it's an exploit if they were like, you know, somehow getting through walls that they weren't supposed to, or like jumping in corners to make NPCs freak out and do something. But
Or like
just...
the dance exploit. Remember where it's like in the middle of a certain kind of battle, you could just start dancing and you would be invulnerable. So it's like, yeah, that is an exploit. But like, you know, we, the guardians of the equipment, forgot to enable the ability for these turrets to shoot you, know, to kill you in 2 shots. That's, bro, that ain't on us.
No, and I agree. That's a bit of a, I mean, I don't know what, maybe, it may have been a combination of, and one of the other things they did was they're limiting the number of players that can get into these, how many players are in a phase of the open PvP sections of Ilum. So, I don't know how much of it was people were overwhelming the server with just too many bodies there. Cause when word gets around this is happening,
sure.
Everybody wants to jump in and get some, and that just broke the game. I don't know, but I just wanted to throw out there that, and I'm still seeing it. I saw it today on Ilum when I was there doing my dailies. People are doing that. Join our raid group, kill the other, you know what I mean? Like, the consensual killing thing.
Yeah.
You're all a bunch of lemmings and you're all dumb.
You heard it from Adam.
You're all a bunch of lemmings.
Shame on
like,
Adam
seriously.
the world. Shame on you, sir.
Exactly. Not the way I play. So I'm just going to throw out there, just, BioWare's looking at folks who really, really abuse that. The average player who showed up for a half hour to see what it was about and play along for a little bit, probably not going to hear anything about it. But someone who really used and abused that, they're going to hear about it. So,
imagine.
Be warned, don't get involved with it, stay away.
Let's talk about, I was driving back from Dallas yesterday when people started sending out the video that BioWare made of all the upcoming stuff in there. This was really awesome.
Yeah, so they hit us, and I, last time we talked, we were talking about the content updates. Like, now the future of the game is really going to ride on, they've talked about, we've got our future content planned, and a lot of times, like most MMOs I've been to, future content means 6 months to a year we may do an expansion.
That's what blew me away. Like, listen to the way they talk about this. I'm going to play a little bit of it here.
Sure.
This is a month into it.
We've been working on it for a year, and it takes place in 2 parts. Our first part comes out right away. Our second part comes in the future. That's how epic the story is.
So new
PvP
war zones, new
is going to be a big
PvP
focus for
zones.
us. You're going to see a new war zone.
I mean,
You're also gonna see new
there's
features.
no way that they
One of
can
the
launch
most
this kind of
important
thing without
features
having been
of
starting it,
PvP is the
4
ability
months
to
ago. This is
rank
clearly
this is what
something.
This is what I realized. So for those who don't know, in this video they talk about the Rackle, what is the name of the whole
Chaos
story?
Under Siege.
Chaos Under Siege.
This flashpoint is called Chaos Under Siege. The story, it's actually a 2-parter. Part 1 is live in the game right now. It's a full. It's very much for those who have played through the game and you've gotten to the Jedi prisoner arc in the flashpoints about midway through the game. Both Republic and Sith have it. It's a 2-part story, but each flashpoint is standalone. So Rise of the Rackles is the storyline, and first part is Chaos Under Siege, went live on Tuesday. I had a chance to play this. Did you? I heard you were streaming it. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, actually, how it worked is Gavin was playing it, and I was sitting behind him watching it and kind of working the chat room and commenting on it. So I watched Gavin play the whole thing.
Okay, so you have not had the intense pressure of playing it yourself. So for those who don't know, it is essentially a level 50 flashpoint that is literally
Say it.
Left 4 Dead with lightsabers and blasters. It's a zombie apocalypse flashpoint.
Would you agree with this? Would you agree with this, Josh?
No. Now I have to stop you, Adam. I really wanted to really enjoy this flashpoint. I wanted it to scare me like Left 4 Dead did. I wanted to have those moments when you turn the corner and there's a boomer and you jump out of your seat. But there was, at the very most, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool silhouette. But I was never shocked or kind of scared.
I disagree 100. I disagree. See,
now keep in mind also.
Here's the experience I played it under. Knew the vagaries of it. I play generally, especially at night, with a really nice pair of surround sound headphones, and that game, like that flashpoint, really had me freaked out halfway through it. And I disagree. There are moments where you hit this, okay, and I had to tell somebody there was a moment where the game preps you with hit this thing to do this, but you can clearly tell something's about to happen. Like you get this impression something's going to go south. And I knew the second time running it, and I was like, wait, don't hit the, and the lights come up, this thing happens, and you're literally gang rushed by like 100 of these things.
Now, do you think it's the kind of thing, Josh, where perhaps the fact that working at PC Gamer, you get your hands on a lot of different games and you've played a lot of different zombie games, whereas Adam is, if he could marry an MMO, he would. You know, and it's like in an MMO, there's a different type of pacing and a different type of storytelling. Is it the kind of thing where it's just like you have different expectations given that it's an MMO versus, you know, something like a dedicated Left 4 Dead game?
Yeah, it probably is. I totally believe that's probably the case because I think I just expected something different. Because when I heard about the flashlights, I wanted it to be pitch black outside of that flashlight zone. I wanted it to feel almost exactly like Dead Space. That's how I pictured it. Yeah. Like I wanted gross little baby demons like crawling out of the woodwork, running at me, and like I didn't want to see them until they were on top of me.
Fred.
Oh, level T for teen. I see. I thought you said team game, and I was like, what does that have to do with
level? Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, dude, the romance scenes are, I like you, fade to black.
Let's hold hands.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, you too. You know, it's very G-rated. So I really, there were moments where like before we faced the final boss in this, the courtyard you're in, like I kept
that fight
around.
Was cool with the giant guy.
Yeah, I kept hearing like growls and screams off, and again with the surround
what level
sound,
do I have to be to play this?
50.
47.
Great.
Yeah, they said you could do 47 if you have some.
But you know what? I tried to get a 48 in. He couldn't take the quest. We were like, come on, we're going to take you with us, and he couldn't. They wouldn't talk to him. So I think they're making you have to be 49 or 50.
All right. Well, I'm stoked about it either way. Let's talk about some of the other stuff that they announced.
Sure.
One of the big gripes that was Adam that you had about being able to customize your UI.
Yeah, that's definitely, and for me, it's not that so much I've got a problem with, oh my God, I just realized I'm still logged into the bloody game. That is so funny. Oh my God.
Are you doing crew skills while we're recording this, Adam? Are we not entertaining enough for you?
I'm leveling right now.
That is awesome.
Tabbed out and just forgot.
Yeah, well, and then also guild banks are coming, which oh my God, that's going to make such a difference because I'll tell you, I love being in the Not Safe for Wookiees guild. I love being able to chit chat with everyone around me, but it's outside of people mailing me the occasional cash out of pity for me being so far behind everyone. I really look forward to having a guild bank.
Yeah, has been the #1 request out of guildies on the Diamond Club side. Do we have a guild bank? We need guild features, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they announced new Warzone, PvP leaderboards. The legacy system's going to kind of come in, you know, with...
Now, I thought the legacy system was already in effect.
It is in that you get your name, but there are no other features associated with it right now.
Got it.
And I'm up to like legacy level 12. I'm thinking about the ding 13. So leveling the alt is contributing to that.
I'm telling you, Josh, he has a problem.
For those levels, I don't know.
So there were some hints come out this week. Did you see? In this video they released, there's a brief. It's more than just a few frames of a Miralukan Sith warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see this?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
what should I be looking for in what section here? I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, the Miralukan is the usually they're green skin, but they can be other skins, but they're the ones with the tattoos on their face, right? Or are they the blind ones?
They're the blind ones.
The blind ones.
Oh,
they're the force sensitive race,
right.
But they always have the blindfold on. Over
Yeah.
their
Oh no,
eyes.
no. I'm looking at it right now. You're talking about the guy. He's got the crusties over his eyes, and he's tearing stuff up with a red lightsaber.
So that right now, that you know how there are, for those who are playing the game, you can't just pick whatever species you want.
Yeah.
In every class, they limit. So there's been a lot of speculation that one of the advantages to this legacy system is that it will unlock new combinations for you. And a lot of people saw that and went, "Wait a minute, that's a Miralukan Sith."
That's
and
awesome.
nobody has commented on it yet. So they think that might be a feature.
What race are you playing as, Josh?
My first one was, I'm a terrible person, I don't know the name. It's whatever Darth Maul was.
Okay, yep.
Sabrix,
And then
yeah.
the second one I've made, the sniper, I made Chiss, because I love those bright red eyes.
Dude, I'll tell you. Tell me you've read the Timothy Zahn books with Grand Admiral Thrawn. He invented the Chiss race for that series.
Oh,
Yeah.
I could tell you, but I would be lying.
Oh
And
my
I'm
God,
very
you've
sad.
got to read them. They're the best.
What are they
really
called?
They're very
Well,
good.
it's the Heir to the Empire trilogy. It's the
Okay.
I'll send you links to them. But Timothy Zahn, they were the first really big Star Wars book releases, and they tell the story 5 years after
it's
the
about
end
5,
of Jedi.
10 years, somewhere in that time frame after Return
It is,
of the Jedi.
and it introduces this new character called Grand Admiral Thrawn, who has no Force ability, but instead is obsessed with the art of different cultures. And by studying the art, he learns what different alien races are afraid of. He understands their psychology, and he has this Sherlock Holmes like almost supernatural ability to predict what they're going to do. So it's interesting to see somebody try to combat the Force with nothing but pure deduction and understanding of psychology. And he is one of the greatest characters in all of science fiction.
He is. He's an excellent villain, interesting race.
And he's just,
yeah.
and that's the other thing. He became a Grand Admiral. He's essentially in charge of the Empire, even though he's an alien. As we all know, the Empire is inherently, semi-racist against aliens. And for him to get to the top it's awesome. It is amazing.
Okay, that's what I'm most excited about this game. When I started playing DC Universe Online, like, that got me so into comic books. I started reading all these comic books again, and now that I'm playing this and hearing stories like that, like, oh man, I need to get that book. And I was walking around a bookstore in the airport just last night, and I saw the Tales from Jabba's Palace book.
That's
and
great.
I know
It's
I
got
have
some
it
great
somewhere in
stories.
my house. I have to find it, because I remember reading that years ago.
Yeah.
So
And in fact, that's when I was, and I guess that's what's really great about Star Wars: The Old Republic is it awakens, people. Anyone younger than 15 probably can't even conceive of a time that you could legitimately say, "Hey, remember Star Wars?" And then be like,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah, I do remember that." And it's like there was this awesome black hole in the mid to late 90s where everybody was so hungry for Star Wars stuff, and it was before the prequels, and you had these awesome expanded universe books where very, very talented science fiction authors would invest a lot of effort. It was phenomenal. And read Tales of the Bounty Hunters, read Tales of Jabba's Palace, read Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina, and definitely read everything by Timothy Zahn in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, Zahn did a really, really good job with those. So I totally see the appeal of Chiss. When I roll an Imperial agent, I did the same thing. My agent is a Chiss as well. So I don't know.
And the one thing I'll say that I didn't know about Chiss is their social ability is it's something like, I forget, it's like mission briefing or something. They pull out a little tablet and kind of toy with it. That actually works as your recuperate. So I loved that I can have a different like recuperate animation than any other Imperial agent.
Oh, I didn't even know. Like,
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I tested it like 20 times because I couldn't believe it. And what it says in the tooltip is it says, look at your mission to briefing while you catch your breath. And I compared the energy and health regen a bunch of times. What I did was I jumped off and fell to like really low health.
Yeah.
And then I use recuperate and see how long it took me to restore, and then and then do it again and try the other one. And every single time it went up at the same speed.
So the recuperate, like you're talking about when you stand idle, you sort of open stuff up and there's a screen in front of you, and you're sort of like you're iPadding through different mug shots is what it looks like.
Yeah,
that
That's
is
unique to the
your
Chiss?
general health regen. There is a social ability. Like for my human characters, it's rally, and if I hit it, it makes me cheer and everyone around me go, yeah. For the Chiss, their social ability it's very similar to what you're talking about, but instead of it being a holographic panel in front of you where it's almost Minority Report, he's turning knobs, and he's moving, images. He pulls out a tablet from somewhere and starts fiddling with it.
Dude, I need
So
to.
it's like, yeah, it's hidden in the skills tree.
Dude,
They'll
I'll go find
automatically
it.
put it on your toolbar.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was
But
really
I
happy
didn't
when I
know
found
it was
that.
a reject.
And Gavin, the other guy I've been playing with, he's like, "Oh, don't you hate that?" Because from his perspective, he's like, well, you already have an ability to do that. You got ripped out of an ability. But to me, it's like, oh no, this is one way I can be like unique in the universe.
You know
I
what
feel
this
special
is?
now.
This is the equivalent of the bloody mess perk in Fallout, where it's like it doesn't give you one iota of benefit as far as the numbers go, but it totally changes the subjective experience of the game. The bloody mess perk, of course, was just like every time you killed someone, they didn't just fall over dead of a gunshot. Their head would explode and their body would fall to pieces. They always died in the most bloody way possible.
Interesting. Yeah. Who else has a oh shoot, who are the green skin people with the tattoos? I can't remember what the race.
Old greenies is what they're called.
There you go. Old greenies. They've got like an ability where they sit Indian style, like they're meditating. Like all of the races have it. They have some sort of social ability.
Yeah, the Darth Maul race, I would basically like give a command to someone or like tell them, like salute and you better shape up. And half the time they just laugh at you and like, oh, what an idiot. And then other times they actually stand at attention and salute back at you.
Now are these other players or non-player characters?
It's other players. Yeah.
No kidding.
So it sounds like we're all having a blast. We all like, so I'm the only one who's actually played through on their own the new Flashpoint.
Yes.
I'm telling you,
don't wave the ruler at us again.
I tell you, it's good stuff. I disagree with Josh. I think that see, here's the other thing I have to compare it to real quick before we kind of wrap this up and call it an episode. This is not the first time they've done the survival horror thing in the Star Wars universe. About 2 years back, they came out with the book, speaking of expanded universe, called Death Troopers. And the idea was plague got out, zombie-like apocalypse from on the planet Dathomir, which was one of the adventure planets in Star Wars Galaxies. So to tie in with the book, literally the last time they ever added content to that game was a whole new adventure that was the Death Troopers thing. And they literally created a whole new section that was like a zombie horror survival thing. And you could not play this content without a full group and the whole 9 yards. And it was good for the time, but it was very tough content. That again, you really couldn't solo it. You had to go with a full group of people or you were going to die. And it really sort of created that same vibe and atmosphere of stay together, watch each other's backs. If you walk away from the group, you're dead. They're going to, they'll just snare you and pull you in,
Yeah, you know what? You actually brought up something interesting when you're talking about content that can only be experienced as a group. That's the one thing that I'm really surprised so far in Star Wars The Old Republic is as much as I'm in a reasonably large guild. We've got no shortage of people who want to hang out together, but I'll be damned if at any given time I have yet to do anything outside of the one Flashpoint you and I did together. I've yet to do anything with another person who I know in real life because we're just never at the same levels together. And to me, that's a real bummer. I mean, not that it's bad to group with a random person, but it's just not the same. And I can't believe that I'm this far into the game and essentially outside of appointment viewing, there's no way to do it.
I was just going to say
the one thing they do add is all the group quests. I think this was a genius move that they did. All the group quests are dailies. So if a high-level player does come back to like a lower-level planet, they can at least still do the quest with you because you can get the quest and kind of.
But does it not ruin the XP for you having a high-level person there?
It probably does.
It may for the individual mobs or bad guys that you're killing, but that person is still going to get the majority of their XP from turning their quest in.
And you get social points, and social points let you buy crazy gear.
Yeah. Oh, it drives me nuts.
I haven't even started.
There's a social ability called Dance Bomb that you have to have social 10 for. I haven't even made social 3 yet.
See, I haven't looked into the whole social side of things at all.
Oh, that reminds me. By the way, I got to complain about something real quick. This is important to me. It's
That's
a social thing.
Because so far we haven't had enough complaints from Adam on this episode.
Exactly. No, exactly. So it's called, all this talk about PvP, forget that. That's a smokescreen for the real issue this patch has caused. This patch, 1.1, broke my fancy Rythm Augmentation droid.
Rythm Augmentation droid? What is that?
There's a cute astromech you can buy on the collector's the security key vendor. It's like $55K. So for those who don't know, when you hit 50, you're suddenly rich. There's a lot more money to be had, unlike when you're leveling. So I had some money to burn. I'm like, what's this? The description says the party goes wherever you are.
Oh, tell me it's a rolling boombox.
Bingo!
Whoa,
It's a rolling
dude! Do you
boombox.
realize? That's my number one complaint about the dance emote on this. Because in City of Heroes, it was great. Anytime you wanted to dance, your character would set down a boombox, and there was like techno music, and other people would walk up, they hear the techno, and they'd start dancing too. And it's like in this, it's like you just dance by yourself because you're a dork.
So that's what this is. This is literally like it's an astromech that you pull out, and he's got like a bunch of speakers, like a boombox on him, and he plays like 30 seconds of music.
Tell me he sounds black.
No, well, he doesn't say anything, and it plays random music. So sometimes you'll pull it out, and it will be the song from the Cantina band, in A New Hope. Other times it'll be something they're playing, in the Fleet.
I picture. Did anyone watch the movie Ice Pirates? Remember the one?
Yes, I love that movie.
Picture that one robot that was clearly like a selling stolen goods. He was a racist robot.
So this is fun. Most folks don't know this thing is in the game. And so when you're doing a random flashpoint or something, you're waiting for somebody, you just pull that out and people are like, no way, where did you get that? This patch broke it. I pull him out, he doesn't do anything now.
Boo. They need more space. They need more space techno, by the way.
Yes. Oh, well, dude,
They should just rip Mass Effect's music. That stuff was rad.
Dude, yeah, no, absolutely. And by the way, I do want to give a little hat tip to Jeff Canado over on Weekend Confirmed. Goes on a pretty epic rant about some of the incongruities in the Star Wars universe. Where this takes place 2,000 years before
3,000 years.
3,000 for 3,000 years. They've had a hit of the ages called the Cantina Band song.
Well, clearly those Biff musicians were classically trained.
Yes, exactly.
They were playing a classic.
He also goes on a tear like, what kind of civilization gets as far as the blue hologram and decides that's good enough for 3,000 years? It's pretty epic. You guys got to hear it.
I will. I'm behind on We Can Confirm. I'll have to check it out. So walk away from this episode today. That I want you to go to the forums and set it on fire to get my Rythm augmentation droid fixed. This is important to me, guys.
It is.
Good.
I have one more topic I want to bring up before we close it out.
Sure, no problem.
I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the crafting system.
It's funny. When last we talked, I had told Veronica and Brian, I said, my advice has been wait till you're 50 before you craft, because it can be
Veronica was like, are you crazy? I'm level 7 and I've crafted 8 billion things. Like she loves that aspect.
Exactly. But my point is, and I still stand by this, it gets very expensive, especially when you start learning the recipes, when you're trying to learn, you have to remake the same thing and then reverse engineer it and then remake it to try and get better recipes of that item. This can get expensive if you're trying to keep up with it. At 50, that's no problem, because I can sit there and not send one companion or two companions to gather stuff. I can send 5 at a time.
Yeah.
So it's really accelerated that and has made it very
5
easy
companions
for me.
by that point in the game?
Yeah, well, you actually have 6 if you include the ship droid. So yeah, you will have 5 adventure-ready companions and 1 droid for the ship by the time you're at the end of the game.
Dude, I'm so far behind you guys. I hate you.
So to answer the question, so I had stayed away just because I knew it was like, I want to level, I want to have a character ready for this stuff. I'll come back to this. So I have been paying much more attention to it since the last time we talked. I'm really liking it now that I understand it. Now that I've had some time to play with it, I'm really liking what players can do. And I'm realizing there's all sorts of cool stuff that players can make that help fill in gear gaps you just didn't even know were there, like ship parts. Like there is a whole tier of purple quality starship parts that you can load up your ship with at 50.
Wow. That
make doing the dailies piece of cake.
Can I confess something? I don't think I've even encountered a purple item yet. That's how lame I am.
Wow.
You're like, wow, that is really lame, Brian.
You'll get there,
Well,
Brian.
no, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
But keep in mind, the way I've
one.
played it has been as a solo experience where I just grind through the quests, and I'm playing it like Mass Effect. And there really is a deeper world if you want to do the heroics and if you want to do more of the flashpoints and have more of the social experience.
Well, so I will say crafting is made the Jedi Knight I'm leveling. I'm not replaying the world arcs because I don't want to burn out on the stories. Although I have a couple of really favorite storylines I may go revisit and redo because I just really liked them and I want the titles. But what I'm doing is primarily flashpoints, class quest, because you have to do the class quest to get your companions and stuff. And I want to see the Jedi Knight story. In PvP, and so I'm doing everything but the world arcs because I've already done Terrace 5 times. I've already done this 4 times between live and beta. Right. So, and my concern was missing all the gear. Like I had said to you, there's a lot of great gear that comes from like the heroics and stuff. There's a lot of great gear that comes from your class quest as you're leveling and through these different, storylines. So I'm missing all of that. So I was like, I better get my crafting up. My Jedi Knight all decked out in purples.
So suck on that, greens.
Purples. So it has made tanking really easy. It is, you know what I mean? I'm not as desperate for a piece of gear.
Wait a minute, I just realized that
what I have.
The whole reason we got on this is because Josh had things he wanted to address before he went forward.
So you're right. Adam, shut up. Josh, go ahead.
Well, I took slicing. I love the missions. I just love the idea that you can send these off. Like you don't have. It's just a cool little mini game inside of it where it's like, oh, I can read this little thing. It's telling me, oh, diplomacy. Oh, there's a hut out in the end world and he's trading slaves. You can send your companion, one of the evil option is, to go in there and make sure you get the best slaves, or the other one, convince him to stop or whatever. I just love those little stories, but I recently switched to biochem, which is basically the alchemy version. Yeah. And love how you...
For Brian, what do they make? They make like health packs, stuff like that?
Yeah, they make health packs. They make stims, which are either like small boosts, and then I forget what the name of the other one is, but it's basically longer like boosts that'll give you, X amount of stats for the next hour or something like that. So it's all stuff like that. But the coolest thing about it is so you can get green levels, and it's like, all right, you get this health pack, it's decent. But if you make it, you can reverse engineer it, and you break it down into parts, and you get some of the parts back that you used to make it, but you get a chance to learn how to make a better version of it, a blue version.
Wow.
And that's more powerful. And then if you do that to the blue one, you can break that down and get a purple version, which is a reusable health pack that you can use forever.
Yeah.
And so that's been really fun. Like you get a ton of different recipes and you're like, all right, which ones of these do I want to specialize in? Like I get to choose. I'm not just a biochem. I'm going to be a biochem that specializes in health packs or something and just focus on learning how to make the best health packs over and over.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm doing the same thing. My Jedi Counselor, I chose synth weaving because I knew eventually I was going to want to. Because being a bit of I love being a fashionista in game. I love outfits. I love playing dress up and all of that. So I was like, I'll make the guy who makes clothes that I can wear, and it's beginning to pay off. Like I said, I'm gearing up my Jedi, but it's the same thing. You're like, that's just an okay bracer. You make 5 or 6 of them. You got them in your inventory. You break them down. You get some of those materials back, but. Yeah, you start sitting there and you realize there are 3 or 4 variations of that recipe in blue. Then then there's a purple version of those blues if you go through. And it's been, like I said, being 50 to wait to do it has made it very easy for me to go, all right, my Jedi Knight's going to need this glove, those boots, this belt. And I'll start focusing on in my off time because, you set up your companions, then you can log out and go do other stuff. I'll set them up and be like, all right, make 20 of these hats. When I come back, I'm going to reverse engineer them and see if I get a purple out of it. And then when I get the purple, it's like, okay, make that for Steffi, send it to her. So yeah, I've really, now that I have the resources to really dive in whole hog, I think it's very, very cool. And I love the fact that they don't give you all of the resources you put into an item. Because when I used to grind in other MMOs, it was a case of you'd eat all that resource. Like all that material you would just eat and either junk it or sell it to a junk dealer. Like you couldn't flood the market with the same thing, but you would just waste your money or your resource to get to level. This at least gives you some of that back. So you get a lot of reusability out of those resources. It's fantastic. I'm really impressed.
So real quick, we obviously, I don't think we have any calls or emails we wanted to share this episode.
No.
But where can people contact us for next, to solve the case of Josh's ineffective XP?
Yes. Why is Josh below level at Hoth? He should have the opposite problem. You can give us a call at 1-330 TCB Talk. That's 330-822-8255. Go on, guys, give us a call, or we're just going to drop, or we'll just shut the wall and we'll never want to hear from you. So call
No
now.
way.
I'm just kidding.
What's the email they could write as well?
You can also drop us an email at thecantinaband@gmail.com. Thecantinaband.com has all the info, as well as updated guild info, who to contact, stuff like that. So it's right there on the contact us page. And let us know. We want to hear from you folks. We know you're listening. There's a lot of you downloading the show. We really appreciate that.
And
We'd like to hear from more of you.
And of course, Josh Augustine, PC Gamer Magazine, what should we be excited about that you're doing?
Working on a really cool feature for Guild Wars 2 that's coming up. Let's see, in the next issue... Oh, we're doing a walkthrough of Directive 7, which is for Tor. Sorry, this is a much better one. We're doing a full walkthrough. We have 4 pages where we're printing out the full map of the dungeon. Directive 7 is the first. Adam, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe it's one of the first level 50 flashpoints that you get into.
It's 49 or 48, and I haven't seen it yet. Here's the problem. This goes back to the no tanks thing. Up until that point, like 48, like most of the flashpoints, you could do with 2 healers and 2 DPS. You had to change your strategies, but there wasn't a magic mix per se that you had to have. I hadn't run into any content that me and my crew hadn't been able to handle until Directive 7. And my buddy was like, no, we're not doing it without a tank. I'm like, oh, come on. We've been doing everything without tanks. He's like, we need a tank for this one. So I haven't seen Directive 7 yet.
You're scared of it.
I'm not.
Dude,
Everybody
it's
else
brutal.
is. Everybody else is chicken. I'm not. I'm like, just jump in and do it. For the record, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Morpheus and Deboli from Diamond Club, because on this vein, we were so annoyed we couldn't see the end of the game, the battle play out on a loom through the 2 flashpoints. And Morpheus like, we need a tank, we need a tank, we need a tank. And I'm like, F that, we don't need a tank, we can figure this out. I refuse to believe BioWare gave me the finale to the game and I can't play it because I don't suddenly have a tank. So he's like, fine, I'll show you what we mean. And we went to go do the last flashpoint, the False Emperor, with 2 healers and a DPS and no tank. It took 4.5 hours, but we saved the galaxy. You're all welcome. Thank you. I just wanted to give them a shout out, because that was one of those moments where I am going to remember that adventure with those guys for the rest of my life.
Oh,
so
isn't that the best part about it?
It really
MMOs?
is. And I have some epic screenshots that I don't want to share yet because there are major spoilers in that.
Because they're all naked, a little bit drunk. They're dancing to the robot.
So I just want to throw that out there. So bring it back to what Josh was talking about. I'm actually very anxious to hear what you guys have to say about Directive 7, because I'm still trying to get a group together to go do that one. So
yeah, it's awesome.
So you're doing a full breakdown of it.
Yeah, we're doing full breakdown, every single boss, kind of also the bonus bosses along the way and what you have to do to unlock it. Also tips for DPS, tank, and healer for each of the bosses. I've done all of the bosses except for one. Actually, in a pre-launch event, I had a level 50 character, and we ran through it with level 50 characters. And man, some of those bosses, one of the guys is called the Bulwark.
Yeah,
we wiped on him at least 20 times before we figured out, okay, like, what was his deal? Because at one point, I won't spoil it for people that want to figure it out themselves, but at one point in the fight, he just unleashes this ray, and everybody dies. And we're trying to figure out, like, how do we stop this? And there's, like, tubes on the side of the room, like, okay, we stand in this tube. No, that didn't work. We're dead. All right, try everybody stand in this tube. Okay, everyone's standing in different tubes.
Yeah. This is almost like the old Metal Gear Solid, where it's like you would have a boss, you're like, okay, there's some trick to beating you, and then eventually you had to figure out, like, oh, if I set down this controller and pick up the other controller, then I could defeat him with it.
Yeah, and that's totally what this is like. But yeah, so we have all the tips in there. I tried to make it doesn't spoil the story at all either, because that's a big deal for me, because story is such a big deal. And that's one thing, Adam, I love about the new one, the new Flashpoint, Kaon Under Siege, is they're making that move back towards more stories.
Yeah,
and
now that's
I'm
something
really
I noticed.
I
know Brian hasn't seen this. Like the initial Flashpoints, Black Talon on the Sith side and the Esselis on the Republic side, very story driven, very conversation heavy, a lot of moral choices in there. Then you get into a batch of flashpoints that are much more straight up. Here's the scenario. There'll be a moral choice or two in there, but they're not very conversation driven. This Kaon Under Siege, very story driven, very intrigued, Can't wait to see where they go with the second one. Now, Directive 7 is much more of a, here's a bunch of bosses, good luck, as opposed to a full, as opposed to a lot of dialogue involved, right? It's all like, here's the story up front, here's the story behind it, and then while you're in there, it's more just kill a bunch of stuff,
There's a fair amount of story at the end, because the end boss is not what you would expect it to be.
Okay.
So you kind of interact and find out what's going on there.
Yeah, because I know the
rest
setup.
of it is
We're not
pretty
going to
much
give it away, but
cruise.
I know the setup behind Directive 7. So I'm
All right,
curious.
you guys are killing me. Stop all this talk. I have no idea what any of you are talking about. Look, real quick, what can we promote? Obviously, Josh Augustine is J Augustine on Twitter, right?
Yeah, Jay Augustine on Twitter. Anyone can email me, josh@pcgamer.com. Let's see, all of my stuff is on pcgamer.com, really. That's about it. I'm on Google Plus, too, and I wish more people would follow me there, because there's no character limit, and we can talk and chat.
Oh, my gosh. How great is Google Plus?
Because I know you and I follow each other on Twitter. I will make it a point of going to find you on Google Plus. Yeah, because I lose people.
Done and done.
Yeah, I'll do that.
What about
Brian,
you?
how about you? What about you, Brian?
Dude,
What do you want to
I don't know. I got a little show called Game On the Twit Network.
I may have heard of it.
Right.
You might have cool co-host on that. I don't know.
Let me tell you, it is so exciting to have these kind of resources as we get our sea legs underneath us. It is a wild ride of what people seem to love and hate as we try to figure out who we are. It is. I'm very excited about some of the features that we have coming up on this week's episode. Highly recommend you check it out. Both the beta online and obviously episode 1, and in probably by the time this is out, episode 2 as well.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to have a quick turnaround this time around on it. But so I looking forward to checking that out on Sunday. Live is fun.
Oh.
Check it out live if you can on
It's electric.
twit.tv. Yeah, being involved in the chat room. Brian, if you don't know, is really good about keeping an eye on the chat room and being involved while he's doing 15 other things.
To a fault.
Well, dude, it's what makes you unique, I think, in the online celebrity verse, is that you actually do really try hard to connect with folks that are taking the time to watch what you're doing. So
I appreciate
check that out, folks. As for me, Twitter, AT0MXII, you can follow me there. But for those who don't know, I do a weekly show on the latest news in Japanese toys and collectibles with my friend Joshua Bernard, based on our website, Collection DX. That's one word, collectiondx.com. New episodes usually go up on Friday night. This week, we're recording over the weekend. Some stuff came up, but every week, all sorts of good geekiness comes on over there. So I'd appreciate if you like what we're doing here, you might like that there. So thank you. Anything else, guys? Are we gonna call this a show?
We're good. I need to go play the game. I got
you and me
40
both.
more levels to catch up on.
I got to go do some flashpoints on my Jedi Knight. I need a tank. Diamond Club needs tanks. Thank you, folks. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.
Hey, we don't serve their kind here.
What, who, the droids?
We can make them wait outside.
No, the droids are fine. But you two will have to wait outside.
Okay.
Don't worry, Master. I will get you drinks to go.
See, I told you we'd get thrown out.
Can't believe I associate with you guys.
Dude, we didn't even set anything on fire this time.
Fine. Oh my.